Elena, and this is Liz.
Yes.
um, Twin Chats is where we talk all things mom life, health, weight loss, and everything in between. So for today's show, we are going to be talking about calorie counting, right, Elizabeth?
Yes, the specific
Yes.
specific thought, which most of our conversations are literally just thoughts that one of us have, and we have this
hmm
conversation. So the specific thought, the specific text that I sent to Elena was, do you have to count calories to lose weight? I lost my train of thought for a second, but yeah, do you have to count calories to lose weight? And like my kind of the whole thing that started this, the whole the question, like my thought was,
Light is crazy.
huh?
My light is crazy. No,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
so it's like I feel like calorie counting and like fat counting is something that I thought was like so old school, probably because like us and like probably most of us grew up with like our parents like obsessing over calories and fat, and then like we're in high school and we're obsessing over calories and fat. And like I thought that was kind of like an old school like mindset because like now there's all these new things.
hmm
There's keto, there's paleo, there's whatever, counting your macros, whatever. So I totally thought that was like not a thing anymore. And then I started like I don't even remember what I was listening to. I was listening to something or watching something, and everything I'm looking at says like you have to be in a calorie deficit. So I'm like, wait, like why? Like I don't get it. I thought I could just like eat lower carbs. I thought I could just eat more vegetables, eat cleaner, and like lose weight. Like why do we now I have to be in a calorie deficit? So that's kind of what started the whole conversation. And of course, I
Yeah,
texted
yeah.
Elena.
And we were walking the one day I was visiting her at her house, and we were walking, and I can't remember. I think you maybe brought that up, and you were saying how you had started to like track what you eat in a day, and you were shocked at where the calories fell. And you were like, but I just can't comprehend how we are supposed to, or like how they're saying with this calorie deficit we would be so much lower than that. And that's I think also how the conversation started, and we realized, okay, this might be a good topic to bring onto this.
Yeah,
So for me,
I think it
I was just going to
actually
say,
happened backwards. I think, well, no, because I think the reason I really started thinking about it and started tracking it is because I was reading all of it, like calorie deficit, whatever. And then you were here and we were walking, and you had said something
yeah,
about like, oh, I'm when I, something about calories, your usual calories in a day. And I'm like, wait a second, because I know, and I'm sure you'll explain like what your eating template is or whatever, but I'm like, wait a second, you count your calories? Like I thought like you just eat a certain way. And then you had said you just, kind of you could explain what you do, but that's kind of where what made me start thinking like, oh, maybe I do need
yeah.
to be.
And honestly, like I agree with you, and like I feel like there's more to it. So my views on this have changed so much over like I would say the past year. Like so I'm a health coach if you haven't watched any of our past videos or read the description. And so I've worked with clients on weight loss and just like creating a healthy lifestyle, and myself like I have a super long journey to where I'm at today, which is like, getting to where I want to be weight wise and just kind of feeling good every day, my clothes fitting well. And in the past, like over the past several years, I have not counted calories, and I've actually been very against it because I always felt like it's not sustainable, it's kind of crazy. And then I kind of had this epiphany. I don't even know when it was, like a year or two ago, and I was like, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Like literally, if you're paleo, you are eating a certain amount where you are falling in a general deficit of calories. Like that is typically or generally how it works. If you have a healthy metabolism, your hormones are all where they're supposed to be, you are in a slight calorie deficit if you are losing weight. If you are in a surplus, you are likely gaining weight. If everything else, all the other boxes are checked. However, I never counted because I never needed to. I just naturally fell in that place. And the clients I work with, typically the way we do it, we all naturally fell in that place. So we didn't need to actually count. Now, recently we were having this conversation because I was saying I find it really, really interesting as like a data point, kind of to get like a baseline of where you're at. Most of the time when anybody starts, like you and I were talking about, when anybody starts and they want to lose weight, the first question is, well, what are you currently doing? And people never know. They're like, well, I kind of eat this, and then I eat a little bit of this, and then sometimes I drink a little of that. And it's like, okay, well, the first step is we got to track or log somehow what you're doing. And using like a MyFitnessPal is just a great way to do it. So that's kind of, I think, where like the starting point is, and how we started talking about was just like, let's look at where you are. And that's kind of where we got to, I think, with that conversation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that is. Um, and I lost my train of thought.
But I was just saying, like, my view has really changed on it because now, I think it was all about like where you're coming at, like the intention you're coming at with it. Like before, when we were younger, feel like it was very like restriction mentality. Like, do you feel that way? Like, I feel like that's kind of always how I viewed
Yes,
it.
that's literally, and I think that's by like over the years I've been like, oh, I'm so glad. Well, let's, and also I should mention I've always been on kind of a weight loss journey, but like not a successful one, like a completely not successful one. So, but I've always been like, oh, I'm so glad we don't have to count calories anymore. But I guess like what Elena said, what I've kind of thought about when I've had this like you said epiphany, it's like everybody calls it something different, but it is kind of
Yeah,
all the same thing, because
it's all the same
even
thing.
just going from like, oh, I try to basically eat, like you do, which again you should say like what you eat, but I kind of try to eat like that on, during the week. On the weekends is kind of like when I go crazy, which is also why I think I'm like just barely maintaining and not losing. But it's kind of this like when after I like now that I started logging my calories, it hasn't been like a super hard struggle to like stay within and under, just because that was already how I was eating. But then it's like the days I decide not to track, like, like tonight we ordered takeout, or like on the weekend, and I'll just be like, well, if I put it in, it's gonna be something crazy. So, but yeah, all that to say, it is essentially all the same thing. It's a calorie deficit, which is just
Yeah.
crazy, like realizing that.
Yeah, like intermittent fasting, keto, paleo, like they're literally all the same thing. And like when people say, and again, like I've had a huge mindset shift around this too. When people say like, well, I don't want to track, it's crazy to track. It's like, you're tracking something. Like if you're intermittent fasting, you're tracking the hours you
Yeah.
eat. If you're doing paleo, you're tracking, okay, well, I'm not eating these things. You're doing keto, you're not eating carbohydrates. Like it's kind of like hilarious when you think about it. Weight Watchers, you're tracking points. It's literally all the same thing. It's
And
just
like
you choose
Beachbody,
which version of it you want.
You're tracking containers. Like you're tracking those little colored
It's
containers,
just
which I've done that. It's literally
yeah.
all, it's just a different way of looking at it. And I think, and I'm not a professional at all, but I think it just comes down to like you have to be in a calorie deficit, right?
What it comes down to, like, I think even more big picture than that is like quantity of food and quality of food. If you are eating really good, solid food, like for weight loss and just creating like a lifestyle where you feel good, if you're eating whole foods the majority of the time, let's say 80 or 90%, you're eating your fruits, your vegetables, your proteins, and like unprocessed whole grains if that's something you eat. If you're eating quality food and you are not overeating, you are almost always going to be in a good place if you do that. The problem is most of us have a really hard time gauging what is like a good amount of fuel for our body. That is where tracking can come in because it can give you a really helpful baseline.
But isn't
Does that
like,
make sense?
yeah, but isn't like cheese a whole food? Isn't like good
Yeah.
quality clean bread a whole food? So like if we
Yeah.
just
What
eat cheese and bread all day though?
you answer your own question. If I eat cheese and bread all day,
I'm
just
just saying,
is it
because you're saying like, too, kind of contradicting what I said. You're saying that if we just are sticking to clean, which is where it gets a little confusing, which I'm sure, I'm not the only one that gets confused. If we're just sticking to clean whole foods and you're not overeating, you're going to be in the calorie deficit. But that's not necessarily true, because a lot of things can be considered clean whole foods, but they're still not going to put you in a calorie deficit. Like
like what?
I could make 3 grilled cheeses a day.
Okay, but if you really question if you should be eating 3 grilled cheeses a day as someone who wants to create a healthy lifestyle, you tell me if that sounds right. If you're completely honest with yourself, you know what you should be eating.
I
And
mean, it
it's
sounds
proteins, fruits, and vegetables, and unprocessed whole grains. Now, if someone has a grilled cheese for dinner and the rest of the day is like a big salad with proteins and like olive oil and like some kind of good dressing, and then the morning is like a smoothie, you're likely still going to fall where you need to be. If you have a healthy metabolism, your hormones are in a good place, you are likely still going to be just fine. And then if you're not, that's where you have to like look and tweak and modify. But I
yeah.
mean, come on, like that's where it comes down to like being honest with yourself and like accountable. We all know if we eat grilled cheese 3 or 4 times a day, and are we stopping at one grilled cheese? Because then you're eating like white flour and cheese, which is a very high fat food, totally fine, but you tend to want more and more and crave more and more when you eat foods like that. So nobody is having one little tiny grilled cheese and being done. And that's it. Like, that's very rare. You're probably going to have maybe chips with it, and then you're going to want a dessert. That is
Maybe.
where we get into trouble. That is where we get into trouble, because then that's more fuel than our body needs. And that's how I actually like to look at it versus like calories in, calories out, is like, what does your body actually need to like maintain, to run? That's how I like to look at it versus like, okay, calories, or that's just kind of my
Yeah.
train of thought on it. But yeah. So anyways, you kind of asked before, like, okay, what is my process and my way of eating, which is what I always, if you look at any of my social media pages, that's what I always talk about, is just having like an eating template. I don't talk about counting calories. When I work with my clients, we don't literally like base everything off a calorie count. It's helpful in some instances, which I'll talk about that, but it's more all based off of a template. So you can eat anywhere, everywhere. You don't have to track unless you choose to. And for me, what works and what works with a lot of people is I find like half a plate of like leafy greens or cruciferous vegetables. A quarter of the plate is going to be your clean protein, which is going to be like a whole food protein. So like chicken, beef, eggs, whatever you eat, whatever kind of proteins you eat, that's going to be like a quarter of your plate. The other quarter of your plate is going to be like your starch, which is your clean carbohydrates. I am not against carbohydrates. We do not have to eat no carbohydrates, especially, or depends on your health and like where you fall. If you have insulin resistance, that's going to look very different. Most people can handle a moderate amount of carbohydrates. So that would be something like your sweet potatoes. If you eat unprocessed whole grains, regular potatoes, that's what a template would look like. And then you're dressing it or topping it with healthy fats. If you eat that way and you are not overeating, which a lot of people don't know really what overeating is for them or need to like figure that out, then you are going to fall right in that range of your maintenance calories, likely.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. And like, I guess, so your answer, do you need to count calories, is no, I would guess then, because like if you are following one of these processes, like what you just said, or like keto or whatever, like you're going to probably put yourself in that calorie deficit regardless.
Most people do not need to count. Again, if you're someone who like has a skewed version of what you should be eating, or you have a hard time, like, some people benefit from doing it at least to start. I think it's honestly like a great awareness tool. Sometimes just plug things in, as you and I have been talking about. Like, even for myself, I don't track always, but sometimes I do. Lately I have, because I have like a body fat goal, and that's another time where I think it's really useful, because if you have specific goals, sometimes you need to vary like your macronutrients. So that might be, you need to eat more protein, you need to eat less fat or higher fat. Then you have to track, because you don't know what you're consuming if you aren't literally looking at the data. And I think that's the most important thing, is looking at it as that, and not like, oh my gosh, if I put this in, I ate it, we ate it anyways.
Yeah.
Which is like the funny part. People don't want to put it in there. Like you said, you had takeout and it's going to be so much if I put it in. It went in your body anyway.
Yeah.
Why not just put it in?
I mean, it's more of kind
there?
of like laziness, because I'm like, well, regardless, like, I'm either over, under, why put it in? I already ate it. Like, but yeah, I do agree that I do think it's been like a huge like awareness tool, just because like what I thought, and I, again, I try to follow like what Elena's template is, I just hit my right really hard. I try to follow what Elena's template is, and it was like just really eye-opening to see like me following the template, like what else I'm doing to like that like adds up, like to, I guess like whatever we talked about, like calories. And I actually downloaded an app and I was using that, and it says like my calories should be like, let's say like 16 and change or whatever. And like when I put in what I was actually eating on just like a normal day that I thought was healthy and clean, and it is, was actually more like 2,000. So like when I'm at that, and then I also, typically work out daily, like that's probably bringing me to like whatever just the maintenance is, barely. And like there would never have been, like there never is going to be any weight loss, because I'm always I'm above every day.
You're eating right. Your actions, which are your eating, is giving you the result exactly where you're at today. So it's like, that's why I keep saying it's such a great data point. It's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Now what do we do with this information that we have, which you didn't have before?
It is like, and it's definitely like, it's crazy.
Now, what I am absolutely not all about is I feel like a lot of influencers right now, it's almost like shifted back, are promoting and pushing the calorie counting, but more like eat whatever you want as long as you're under this amount of calories. And I am like completely against that, and will never promote or get behind that, because food does so much more for your body than is not just a calorie. Like you said before, if you have 3 grilled cheeses throughout the day, you're causing like serious inflammation in your body. Those are not balanced meals. Like you are going to have crazy insulin spikes. You're going to do all these other things for your body, which right away you may lose weight. Like say that was way under where your fuel level is. You may lose weight, but you're going to feel horrible after that, and you're going to be wreaking like havoc internally. So that is what I don't ever support. I think it's more like do both. Pay attention to how much is going in your body, but also pay attention to the quality and what the foods are. Make them balanced and like as whole food based as you absolutely can.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I would agree with
yeah,
that. Like, I mean, obviously, and really to stay under your calories, at least what I've noticed is like you can't. I mean, it's not like you can have, like something crazy every single meal. Like, I can't like wake up and have like a bagel and then for lunch have like tacos and chips and then for dinner have like a burger and fries because most likely I am going to be over. So like really the only way to be under is like you have to kind of like keep most of your meals like, clean and
very
healthy.
clean.
Yes, and like the
Yeah.
carbs seem to be, which is what because I was like, well,
You
where
are so stuck on the carbs. She's so
no,
stuck on
no,
the
no.
carbs.
What I'm saying is because I was like, well, what is adding up? Like, because sometimes, like, what I notice is like my breakfast. Like, once that starts high, it's kind of like hard to like counteract that. Like, then when it comes to lunch and dinner, I'm like, well, if I'm supposed to be like 1600 or under, like I've already started with an 800-calorie breakfast. Like starting,
Right.
and my breakfast includes my coffee. I use cream, so like, so yeah, you're already starting like at a already really difficult
Halfway.
day. So it
Yeah.
kind of seems like I've kind of realized the carbs are what add up. I know you say I'm so stuck on the carbs, but that is like if I have, 2 pieces of bread and then I have like the one meal I logged that I was like shocked. It was like all I had was like bread, a protein, grits, and like I don't even know what else I had. Whatever, and eggs or something. And it was like 800 calories. And I'm like, that wasn't even that good. And it was 800
Yeah, but
calories.
if you look at that, you didn't have any fruits or vegetables. Your foods were the least nutrient dense and very simple carb heavy. So you're not eating like whole,
Yes.
clean foods.
But that's my whole point is the carbs are what add up. And it's not just that I'm just like hung up on the carbs. That is what seems to be higher.
Strawberries, blueberries, sweet potatoes,
They're
and potatoes
lower.
are all straight carbohydrates, and
True.
they're very, very low. So completely,
Yeah.
no,
True.
it's which ones you're choosing, and it actually is either carbohydrates or fat. Those both are going to be higher in calories typically than your protein unless you're eating something like a higher fat beef.
Yeah.
Those are both going to be, which is why you find people that are either eating low fat, high carbohydrate typically, or high fat, low carbohydrate, because one has to give,
Yeah.
or you're going to be somewhere balanced in the middle, because like we said before, it's literally all the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, like something that's huge that plays into it though is the health of your metabolism. People who have a better, higher metabolism, and depending on like where your hormones are, you can eat more. You may be literally somebody the same age as you, same size as you, and they may be able to eat 2,200 calories and be at maintenance or whatever that would look like. Or if you like lift a lot of weights or you do a ton of cardio activity on a daily basis, like you're a runner. So everything is so individual, which is where like calorie counting is kind of like, it's a little bit like it's highly inaccurate. Nobody really knows what we actually need on a daily basis. You can pull up all the calorie counters online, and you can enter in all the food, but nobody literally truly knows down to an exact science what number you need. The only way to figure it out is to test it.
Yeah.
And to do and eat what like leaves you feeling your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it still comes down to. However, I think it can still be a great tool, and I feel totally differently about it than I used to, because I used to be like, oh my God, calorie counting, like, ew, who does that? And now I'm like, it's literally data. Like,
yeah, and
it gives you information.
I don't, and it's probably not something like I'll always do, but like you said, I kind of just am using it as like a baseline to like even because clearly I wasn't even understanding what I was putting in. So, and
Yeah.
I know you said that's how you use it as well, but so you use my Fitness Pal.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only one I've ever had. Like a million years ago, I used it, and then recently, when I've been like, okay, I'm curious, and like when I'm consuming again now, I started using it again. Yeah.
I don't know why, but I could not figure out how to get the free plan. So I just deleted it and downloaded one that's called Lose It, which is actually kind of like I mean I like it. I don't have any complaints about it. So if you're looking for something else, that one works too. And I wanted to only do
Yeah.
the free plan and that has one. So
I think there's a lot of them now. I don't really know about
I'm
any of the
sure,
others just
yeah.
because that's the one that I'm used to from the past. I'm trying to think. I was going to say something else and I can't remember what. Um, hmm. Oh, just like awareness. I think we kind of talked about that. Like, really brings your awareness to like serving sizes and like things you're having that you had no idea. Like, I always talk about like almonds and cashews, and this isn't only for calorie tracking, but even if you look at a serving and it says like 20 almonds, well, if you take a handful of almonds, it's usually like 40 or
Yeah.
like anything. Like, it just brings your awareness. Like, it's very eye opening. And then I know I sent you a text the other day because I bought this like cookie dough from Wegmans. It's like edible cookie dough, and I had like a white do you remember I
Yeah,
sent you that?
yeah.
A white chocolate Reese's cup, and I was having like my dessert. It was like a Friday or whatever. And I actually looked at the package and saw what the serving was. And it was like this little tiny shot glass full of cookie dough and like one of the white chocolate Reese's cups together. Like, it was the saddest picture ever. And it was like 400 calories. And I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my
that's
gosh,
crazy.
like,
It's
and
crazy.
it's just funny, and it is very, and not even just the calories, because then also you have to look at like the sugar that's in that. So if I was having double that, I'm then having like 50 grams of sugar versus the 20 or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's like, it's just very helpful to look at. Is really what this all comes down to, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also interesting to see, like, because the app I'm using, like, breaks it down, like, what's like how much you're eating fat and protein and carbs. And, like, sometimes it can be
Mhm.
like, oh, I had like 20% protein and everything else. So, yeah, it is interesting. And I have noticed just from observation, I know, again, you say I'm stuck on the carbs, but like pasta, for example, like, I mean, how many of us are having a quarter cup of pasta? I'm not. I'm probably always having a half a
Or
cup
ice
or a
cream.
cup. I mean, ice cream. I'm never probably going to measure that because I don't even have it.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you actually look at a serving, it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God,
Oh
like,
yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
that's
So like
crazy.
it's like I've just noticed that it's helpful to like kind of like we've already talked about, like if you instead of having like whatever, you add vegetables or you add fruit, and then it kind of, or add lettuce instead of having like bread or pasta or whatever, and it just like kind of brings your number down for the day, which makes it a little easier. But
Hmm.
I've also realized sometimes if I want to eat something like chips or like chocolate, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to put that in. I just won't eat it, which is good, I guess.
Which that like helps for a lot of people, but it's the same thing if you were like doing paleo and you're like, but I don't want to go off my plan. You don't eat it. Like, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's just a different construct, and it's just like, you got to, everybody's got to do what works for them.
Yeah.
But two other things I was going to say. One was, a lot of times when somebody starts tracking, and you get a general gauge of what's working for you. Like, say you start to see a difference or whatever it is, and you know that you eat like these three general meals throughout the day, you don't have to track anymore, because you literally know if you just swap out a
Yeah.
vegetable or you swap out a protein, you're still going to fall right within the daily range, until like maybe you get to a point where you're like, I feel like I've gone off a little bit. Then you start to track again. So you definitely, for most people, like, it's just a starting point, and then you don't have to do it forever,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. That's kind of like my thought process, is just to like understand like where the difference is, because clearly I'm just doing something wrong. But yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there was something else that I was going to say, and I don't remember what it was. But um, what else? What else are you thinking about this? Anything we didn't talk about?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything that I'm thinking
Okay.
we should.
Yeah. I think, yeah, just like, it's only one piece of the puzzle. That's like the biggest takeaway. It's like, it's always going to be quality and quantity of the food you eat, but
Yeah.
calories is only literally one small piece of what's going on. There's so many other things that play into it.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
oh, it's going to drive me crazy what else I was going to say, but I don't remember. Okay, well, I guess that's good. All right, so if you guys are interested in any more of our videos, definitely subscribe. Like I mentioned, I'm a health coach. You can find me anywhere, even on a separate YouTube channel at Elena Nicole Health. That's pretty much, I'm everywhere there. And then Elizabeth has a online clothing boutique, and that's Aiden Rose, Ayden Rose, at Aiden Rose. I think everywhere pretty much. So if you want to go and follow her or check that out, definitely do that. If there are any topics that you would be interested in hearing more about, drop them in the comments, and we will maybe talk about them on a future episode. So thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.